You walk into your exec meeting with a solid strategy. You present. Then someone raises an objection you knew was coming, and suddenly you're scrambling to respond instead of leading the conversation. There's a simple framework that changes this completely. Let me show you. I'm Joni Hoadley, and I coach product leaders on how to operate more strategically and communicate more credibly with their stakeholders. Today, I'm sharing the MOVE framework, a technique that will help you anticipate objections and address them before they derail your proposals. Here's what typically happens in stakeholder conversations. You've done the work, your roadmap is defensible, your strategy makes sense, but when you present it, someone raises a concern. Maybe about resourcing, maybe about timelines, maybe about risk. And now you're on your heels defending your thinking instead of leading. The momentum shifts. You look reactive instead of strategic. I know I've been there, and I'm pretty sure every product manager has been in this situation. And here's the thing. You probably saw that objection coming. You knew someone would worry about the budget or question whether the team has capacity or push back on deprioritizing something else. But you didn't address it up front, so now you're suddenly scrambling. This is where the MOVE framework comes in. MOVE stands for Most Obvious Objection. I learned about this from a conversation between Wes Cow and Lenny Rachitsky in an episode of his podcast, which I'll link to below. It's become one of the most practical tools I share with the leaders I coach. The idea is simple. Before you walk into any significant stakeholder conversation, you ask yourself, what's the one objection that's most likely to come up? Not every possible objection, just the most obvious one. The one that's sitting in the room, whether anyone says it out loud or not. Then you address it directly in how you frame your proposal. Not as a footnote, not in the Q&A, right up front. Let me give you an example. Say you're proposing a shift in your roadmap to focus on discovery work for a new market opportunity. You know the most obvious objection is going to be, we can't afford to slow down delivery on our core product. If you wait for someone to raise that concern, you're now in reaction mode. But if you lead with it, I know the concern here is that this pulls focus from delivery. Here's how we're protecting momentum on the core roadmap while doing this exploration. You've just demonstrated that you're thinking like a strategic leader. Let me give you two more quick examples of what this sounds like in practice. Example 1, you're proposing a pivot in product direction. Instead of presenting the pivot and waiting for the pushback, you say, I know we've invested heavily in this area and shifting now feels risky. Here's what we've learned that changes the equation, and here's how we protect that investment while adjusting course. Example 2, you're requesting additional headcount. Raise your hand if you're a product leader who's been in this situation where you've requested additional headcount and you've been denied. I know that's happened to me a couple of times. Here's how you lead. I know we're being disciplined about hiring. Here's the specific gap that's creating risk, and here's the measurable outcome we're not able to hit without this role. In both cases, you're not guessing at objections. You're doing the work to understand your stakeholders well enough to know what matters to them, and then showing that you factored it into your thinking. Now, two quick clarifications about what this framework is not. First, this isn't about preemptively defending every possible concern someone might raise. That's exhausting and it makes you sound uncertain. This is about addressing the most obvious objection, the single concern that if you don't acknowledge it, will undermine everything else you're trying to communicate. Second, this isn't about manipulating stakeholders into supporting something they shouldn't. If the objection is legitimate and you can't address it, that's useful information. Maybe your proposal isn't ready. Maybe you need to adjust your approach. The framework helps you do the strategic thinking before you're in the room, not scramble in the moment. So here's what I want you to do. The next time you're preparing for a stakeholder meeting, a roadmap review, or a one-on-one with an exec sponsor, pause and ask yourself, what's the moo here? What's the most obvious objection? In fact, I highly recommend writing this down on a Post-it note, just like that, and putting it on your monitor so that you can look at that every time you're getting ready for a significant meeting. So the next time you're preparing for a stakeholder meeting, a roadmap review, or a one-on-one with your exec sponsor, pause and ask yourself, what's the moo here? What's the most obvious objection? Write it down, then build your response into how you frame the conversation. You'll notice the shift immediately. Instead of being on your heels, you're leading. Instead of reacting to pushback, you're demonstrating that you've already thought it through. And that's what real strategic product leadership looks like. If you found this useful, subscribe for more practical frameworks on product leadership and strategy. And if you're a product leader looking for support in navigating those important stakeholder relationships and operating more strategically, check out the link in the description below to learn about how I work with clients. Thanks for watching.